Welcome to episode 36 of Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And today we are going to talk about Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights from 1997, which received 3 nominations at the 70th Academy Awards. It didn't win anything, but that's all right, because it's a winner in my heart. It's definitely one of my favorite films of all time to talk about. Here we go, man. You know, we got a huge cast that we can, kind of talk about here. I know there's some actors here that you love, and, seeing a guy like Burt Reynolds, doing something totally different than what you're used to is great. But PTA, this is his second movie, right? And Hard Eight is a movie that came out just a year before, 1996, and you just got to watch that. So I kind of want to open the table right away and let you kind of just talk about what an awesome debut film that is.
Yeah, sure. Paul Thomas Anderson's a filmmaker I've respected for years. I've been kind of gradually chipping away at his filmography. These shows have really rushed me to the finish line, that's for sure. And Hard Eight was the last one. And it's on Prime, so I checked it out for prep for this show, and it's a fantastic debut. A guy who clearly knew what he wanted from his career, what he wanted to be, what he wanted to do. He was an incredible storyteller. He could juggle a great cast. He had it all from the start. And very few filmmakers are that good at the beginning of their careers. Most people have to work for years to build that kind of talent. But he went in immediately and made Hard Eight, and then Boogie Nights, and then Magnolia, and then he just kept rolling along. He's only 8 films deep, which is kind of amazing. He's got a hell of a track record, and I'm very excited to talk about him today. Hard Eight was a fun, engaging, unpredictable watch, and that's the best.
Yeah, a really cool cast. Philip Baker Hall and John C. Reilly and Gwyneth Paltrow and Philip Seymour Hoffman. And you see, of course, the beginning stages of a very special connection between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Thomas Anderson, and even John C. Reilly and Philip Baker Hall. These guys are mainstays for PTA, and they totally understand what he's going for, what the kind of filmmaking that's happening. And Hard Eight, I thought, I love them all. It's very hard for me to to kind of rank them. I love all of his movies, but Hard Eight for me was the one that I thought you were going to like the most, because I think it has this pace to it, and the length of it. You could tell there were producers that were like, oh, let's hold this 27-year-old back, or 26-year-old back, like, holy shit. That the wheels came off a little bit in Boogie Nights and Magnolia. The the length of those, it's like 2 hours and 35 minutes, and then it's like 3 hours plus for Magnolia. So he got what he wanted after proving what he could do here with Hard Eight. And I think it's really important to go back and watch that movie. Like you said, it's on Prime. I love talking about that one. I love when someone finally sees it after seeing everything else, because it's usually the last one people get to. And that's how it was for me. But Boogie Nights, that's the one we're going to be talking about heavy here today. We're going to be talking about the 70th Academy Awards a little bit, giving awards out ourselves to Boogie Nights, which will in turn create a big conversation. I can't wait to do that. It was very hard for me to choose my Ennio Morricone award.
Yeah.
Because the soundtrack in Boogie Nights is just one of the best, one of the best ever. So let's move on. Magnolia, that'd be the third, feature-length film under Paul Thomas Anderson's belt, and it's my personal favorite. I don't think it's his best movie. I think that's a totally different conversation. I think you most certainly connect with certain PTA movies and find some of them to be really funny, or you like the pace of them, or like the heavy editing, or you like, something that's a little bit more broad. I just find Magnolia to be 3 hours of awesome movie making, and I could watch 9 hours of it. I could watch 12 hours of it. It just doesn't really matter. I kind of feel at home when I'm watching that one. whether it be John C. Reilly or Tom Cruise or Philip Seymour Hoffman, or it doesn't matter. I'm right at home with that one. I love Magnolia.
Magnolia was a film I was very hesitant to watch because 3+ hours is intimidating.
Yes.
And I when I found out it was like one of your favorite movies, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to watch this at some point. And then we did the PSH episode on Filmgazm, and I was like, fuck, here it is. And me, I don't like self-indulgent artsy shit. I like a streamlined plot. I like to, get into a narrative. And Magnolia sucked me in almost immediately because of how well constructed each segment is and the incredible performances from everybody involved. Magnolia is an amazing film, and I encourage people to ignore the runtime and dive into that thing head first. It is a real pleasure, and it's a haunting film. Tom Cruise alone goes to places I didn't know he was capable of going in that film.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And I'm honestly surprised we have not yet done that on this show. I assumed when we had the idea for Oscar Sunday, that was going to be in like the first 5.
Well, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to talk about some things that I really, really love. Like Boogie Nights is very easy for me to talk about. I know exactly what it is I love about it. I'm totally comfortable doing an episode about it. That's why we're doing it here today. It's probably the one I'm most comfortable talking about out of his whole filmography. It's like comfort food to me, Boogie Nights. Like I've thrown it on. There's been countless nights where I've thrown it on just like barely awake and just kind of throw it on and just kind of lay down, and sometimes I'll watch the whole thing, sometimes watch an hour of it, whatever. I just love it. But Magnolia is like the one that I don't watch as much, but I'm like, oh boy, that one kind of does me in there. Every time I do sink my teeth into it, it's this kind of wild experience. And it's difficult for me to talk about. I think doing a episode on it would help me kind of figure out some of my emotions about it, because I definitely like biblical references in movies. So the ending of that movie is very impactful to me. I know it can be seen as silly to some people, the finale of Magnolia, but I find it to be amazing. Tom Cruise was Oscar nominated. Paul Thomas Anderson was Oscar nominated for that movie for Best Screenplay. And Amy Mann was nominated for Best Original Song, Save Me. We most certainly could do that on the show. We did Fight Club, 1999, and I cannot wait to do a Best Picture showdown around that year. I really wish Magnolia was in that group, but American Beauty won that year, and I actually think that those two movies are a pretty interesting double feature. American Beauty and Magnolia.
You got that kind of time, yeah.
Yeah. If you got 5.5 hours to just kind of, knock out. I could kind of go on and on about, especially 1999. I think that year is just kind of connects in a really weird way. And I could kind of talk about it forever, but Magnolia is definitely my favorite from that year, my favorite PTA. And usually when people ask me what your favorite movie is, that's my answer. It's usually Magnolia. We'll move on to a film I definitely love, but not as much as Magnolia. I think it's one of Paul Thomas Anderson's most bizarre films, Punch Drunk Love, 2002. Oh man, to see PTA work with a guy like Adam Sandler, how weird is that?
It's incredibly bizarre. Paul Thomas Anderson makes a lot of moves in his career that could be the end. Like, he doesn't care. He's all about what is the best thing for the art. And I respect the hell out of that. And Adam Sandler brings something very different to that movie. I think it's the perfect balance of dramatic chops and comedic talent. Like, you need that balance for that character to work. And Adam Sandler pulls it off. I've heard like theories that he's supposed to be like it's supposed to be about Superman. I've heard theories about that because he's got like the blue suit and like he's very strong. I don't know about that, but it makes you look at the film a little different. That's for sure.
It's a different take on Clark and Lois. Yeah,
basically, yeah. But yeah, I think Punch Drunk Love is probably his funniest movie. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oof, that is so hard. That's such a difficult. I'm not arguing with you. I think it's so funny, but that's such a difficult thing because they all have their own charm. Yeah,
they do. But there's something about the easy mattress salesman versus the pudding guy. It's so weird, but so goddamn funny. It's impossible not to laugh during that whole bit.
Truly. Yeah, and that's a film, Punch Drunk Love, that I had super mixed feelings about the first time I saw it. I didn't quite know all of PTA's work. I actually saw this before Boogie Nights, before Magnolia, and I was just kind of like, whoa, this Adam Sandler movie is really weird. And this what we're doing here at Filmgazm, there's not really a place for it necessarily. It was not Oscar nominated. I understand that. It is quite a bizarre movie. I wish Sandler would have been nominated. That would have been cool. Uncut Gems also. Yeah. Fucking Sandler should have got that noise. We definitely love Sandler here, and so to see him work with a director like this is very cool. And similarly to him working with like Noah Baumbach or him working with the Safdie brothers, it's just cool to see those little glimpses into Adam Sandler kind of having this whole other taste, and I do really enjoy that one. I think it's one that is on. Is it on Netflix still? It was for a little bit there. I'm not sure.
Let me check real fast. A lot of PTA's films are streaming, which is great.
Yeah. Yes.
Punch Drunk Love is available through Cinemax. So if you have Cinemax, that's where you can watch it.
Okay. There you go. This next one is it's a big one. I think a lot of people look at this as all right, this is kind of the overall favorite. The 2007's There Will Be Blood. Yeah. A movie that totally went toe to toe with No Country for Old Men for that Best Picture Oscar. And yeah, it had a good day. It was nominated for a lot of shit, and it, like I said, went toe to toe with No Country with that brilliant Coen film. It just so happens that the Coens might have made their masterpiece as well the same year. And then this other movie called Zodiac just got completely ignored at that show. Maybe David Fincher's masterpiece also came out that year. So it's a really big year, I think, for some big time directors.
Damn, the phrase David Fincher's masterpiece. That's a tall order. There's like 5 or 6 films that could fit that one.
Oh, I agree with you. I think all 3 of those. I think the Coens, Fincher, and PTA could all say that they have 4 or 5 masterpieces under their belt.
Absolutely. 07 was a hell of a competitive year, and for me it really was a coin toss between really both of these films. There Will Be Blood features, I don't know how to quite say this, just Daniel Day-Lewis. It might be his best performance. I think it is. Yeah.
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 Of course. It's you bring up all these different things, and hundreds of different moments in movies come to your mind. Different dialogue, different just facial expressions, different different kinds of violence and different kinds of heroism. He carries this masterpiece, and it's a performance that can kind of be stacked up against anybody else's best stuff. Like, I think you and I are, very, very fond of, what he's doing as Christy Brown in My Left Foot. And we're very, very fond of what he's doing as Bill the Butcher and Gangs of New York. Kind of just shows the range there, how evil he can get and menacing, and how he can deliver these just unbelievable lines. And then in Christy Brown, he does the physical, just transformation kind of thing, and you can't believe you're watching a guy who also played Lincoln. It's crazy stuff. And the guy, he's won 3, been nominated for 6. I call him kind of the Michael Jordan of the Oscars, where it's just like, this guy's dominant. When he showed up, he almost won every time, and has an argument every time. It's pretty impressive.
It's amazing. I think we've brought up the idea of, who is the GOAT when it comes to acting. And we look at people who've done the paycheck gigs and phoned it in. And Daniel Day-Lewis is maybe the only guy, at least in the past 50 years, who never.
They're not there.
In. He never phoned it in. He never did a paycheck gig. Every performance was the end all be all to this guy.
Yeah.
And you see it every time. I got nothing but praise for the guy. He's the man.
yeah, truly. I mean, Last of the Mohicans, The Name of the Father, My Beautiful Laundrette, this guy's crazy good, and his batting average is almost perfect. It's almost 1,000. He's crazy good. We have mad respect for him. There Will Be Blood, just real quick before we move on to another, what I think is another masterpiece, is from 2012. There Will Be Blood was nominated for Best Sound Editing, Best Art Direction, Best Film Editing, Screenplay, Directing, and it won. Also Best Motion Picture of the Year, of course. We talked about that. And it won Best Cinematography and Daniel Day-Lewis, Best Performance by Lead Actor. So, just awesome stuff there, and of course is a movie that we would love to cover on this show. A movie that I don't know if I can pick a Deakins, pick a best scene. There's just a lot of good things happening there. We could go on and on, but 2012, The Master. We have we see PTA take a 5-year gap, and then he makes a film that doesn't do very well. Financially, he kind of knew that was going to happen, right? Just made it anyway. You talked about how he's kind of going to make his kind of art no matter what at this point. And the Master is what he says now. PTA says that's his best movie now. That's what he says. And I think there's a lot of his fans that agree with that. And I see the argument. I think that one and There Will Be Blood are just on this different kind of level. I don't really see anybody being able to really sit down and watch either of those movies and not be kind of just stirred and kind of just moved in some way. What do you think?
The Master is a very ambitious film, and also in Hollywood, incredibly risky, because it destroyed his friendship with Tom Cruise, because this is essentially a film about Scientology, just with a different name. The character of Lancaster Dodd is L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes.
Everything but name. And you got to be really careful when you go after Scientology. And I bet that's why it didn't do well, because they, shut that shit down. But it is a great character study and a phenomenal piece for every actor involved. And I mean, it's a shame that had to be really Philip Seymour Hoffman's, one of his last films, but it's a hell of a way to go out.
It's his last great performance. Yeah, it's his last. There's a reason you and I chose a long time ago now. We did an episode just kind of talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman's career, because we're both we love the guy. We named an award after him here. We love the guy, and I definitely think he should have won the Oscar for what he's doing as Lancaster Dodd. Joaquin was also nominated, and Amy Adams. Those three, it's a clinic. It's a fucking acting clinic. So if anything, even if you don't like the style of the film, or the pace is a little off for you or whatever, just watch those three. It's worth it. It's like a class watching those three. Just kind of, it's like a ballet. You're watching Peggy Dodd, Lancaster Dodd, and Freddie Quell. Just fucking, whoa, man. They're on a different level in that movie. I think all three of them have an argument to win that year.
Yeah, he does that. Paul Thomas Anderson can bring out remarkable things in his actors. And we see that from Hard Eight all the way to his most recent film, and we're certainly going to see that in the thing he's got in the works right now. For me, The Master's worth, like, if you're just a casual moviegoer, if you're not as in deep as we are, I recommend watching The Master, if only to see Philip Seymour Hoffman call a dude a pig fuck.
Oh yeah, well, why can I not think of that actor? I'm gonna look into that, but it was just nominated for those three people at that awards. I truly think it should have been up for Best Picture and other things. It would be a very interesting episode because I think there's a lot there, and a lot. I think PTA is really leaning on his influences and shouting out some awesome stuff in cinema. And I saw it in theaters and I didn't quite know what was going on, but I do. This next movie that we're going to talk about, I know you have some mixed feelings about. It's just 2 years after The Master. He gets Joaquin Phoenix to come on back in 2014, Inherent Vice.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm not a fan. Inherent Vice makes zero sense, but I don't blame Paul Thomas Anderson for that. I blame Thomas Pynchon for writing an intentionally confusing book. I don't get the appeal in that. Like, why would anybody be, excited to read a book that openly is sold as a confusing story that makes no sense, and then a confusing movie that makes no sense? The only thing I took away from Inherent Vice is Josh Brolin screaming for pancakes in Japanese. That is awesome. Me and Caleb, the co-founder of Filmgazm, made that an ongoing joke. We would scream that at each other constantly. Muto pancakeo, muto, just randomly. So that's all I got from Inherent Vice.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Oh man, I have a different experience with that movie. I saw it in theaters with a friend, and just immediately kind of got sucked in. We've talked a lot about 2014 before on multiple shows. It's just kind of come up. We definitely dove in when we talked about Whiplash on this show, and that was a lot of fun. And Inherent Vice is another one of those movies from that year. Grand Budapest Hotel is another one. Birdman. All these different kinds of films, and Inherent Vice just stood out as the weird one, as the kind of glossy, drug induced. What's happening? You talk about Josh Brolin. I mean, he just eats weed. He just starts, just like, is that Thanos? It's crazy stuff, and there's a lot happening, lots of different wild performances, and Joaquin is totally buying in to what's happening in that movie. And I have a sincere like for it, and I have like a good time. I'm kind of like laughing most of the time that I'm watching that movie. And I'll be honest here. There was one time I watched the film. There may have been psychedelics involved, and woof, just totally different experience, and pretty wild stuff, and kind of gave me a whole new respect for Paul Thomas Anderson as a filmmaker altogether. I do think it's not one of his best movies, though. I totally understand that, and I get why some people kind of have it towards the bottom.
It's, it just comes down to, for me, I have, certain things I don't like in a movie. I don't like self-indulgent, confusing shit for the sake of being confusing. I like narrative-driven films, character-driven films, and I thought Inherent Vice just went in so many different directions that made no sense.
Yeah.
And I like closure, and I didn't even know what the story was supposed to be. I didn't know if I was supposed to laugh, if I was supposed to be sad. Like, I didn't know what genre it was. It was just, it felt like a David Lynch movie more than anything else.
Yeah. That's perfect. I love that. Definitely felt like there was some Twin Peaks going on somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So no. Plus, Caleb and I went to Applebee's before we went, and that was shit. So we were already in like a little irritated mood. We missed the first show, and we had to wait like 4 hours for the next one. So we were already like, this better be good.
Fair enough.
Good times.
I love that, man. I love that. There's movies that you can kind of pinpoint exactly what happened that day, whether you liked the movie or not. I love that, and that's really fun. You had specific moments. 2017, Phantom Thread.
Yeah.
Teams up with Daniel Day-Lewis again, and Daniel Day-Lewis's last film.
Yeah.
And he has not shown up since. He has, stayed true to his word. It's been 4 years now since that movie came out, and oh boy, Phantom Thread. It's a very heavy movie. This is a film that came out right around when you and I met. And we were definitely consuming a lot of movies that came out in 2017. And then once we got in 2018 and you and I were starting to kind of figure out we're gonna like try recording together and see if we can make some kind of podcast thing here. And I think about movies like Phantom Thread a lot, that movies that came out right before that just kind of, there has to be movies that inspire you and kind of make you jump towards something. And I think there was a slew of them in 2017 and 2018 for you and I. And speaking for myself, Phantom Thread is one of those, where this is a filmmaker at that point I had pretty much fallen in love with. I had seen everything and was like, just feed me anything, anything with his name on it. I don't need a trailer. Just sit me down and I'll watch it. And Phantom Thread was a great movie to not watch the trailer for. And he just shows yet again, Paul Thomas Anderson shows again, and Daniel Day-Lewis shows again for the last time, just how fucking in control they are. And how the craft does not go away. Even at age, he's 50 now. So at, age 47 or so, just still got it. So cool.
Well, I think it speaks volumes that Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the few directors who Daniel Day-Lewis worked with more than once. I think Jim Sheridan and Martin Scorsese are the only two others.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that's right.
That's pretty cool to team up more than once with Daniel Day-Lewis. Shows a real mutual respect. And the character of Reynolds Woodcock is one of the most complex that DDL ever played. And a hell of a swan song. He's a guy who you understand, but you also kind of despise. But you get it in a weird way. It's such an oddball film. And you wouldn't think that for going in. But, with Paul Thomas Anderson, nothing is quite the way you think it's going to be. He's very good at kind of highlighting the very dark sides of places you wouldn't think as dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shows you a light, bubbly scenario and then tricks you into seeing the darkness of it. He does that all the time, especially in Boogie Nights.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think Phantom Thread is an underrated film of his. I think that it was a big Oscar contender. I think it only took home costume design.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising considering it's about a guy who is, the best tailor in England. Yeah, Phantom Thread. It's been a while since I saw it, but it is. I remember very much enjoying it and wondering why more people weren't talking about it. And yeah, Gary Oldman beat Daniel Day-Lewis that year, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of people beat Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really like what Daniel Day-Lewis is doing in Phantom Thread,
Mhm.
and I'm cool with Gary Oldman's performance, but like I don't think either of them are like it's nowhere near either of the guys' best work.
Fair enough. Who do you think should have taken home gold that year?
2017. Let's see. Oof. Let's see. That would be Timothy Chalamet.
Mm-hmm.
Who else would have been up that year, 2017?
Daniel Kaluuya and Denzel Washington.
Okay. Denzel for
Roman J. Israel Esquire.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say Fences is 2016. Okay. Oh, okay. It's not a super strong group.
Well,
I don't know, man.
I think that one of those was supposed to be James Franco for The Disaster Artist until some accusations got him shut out.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you who do you think is the best out of that group?
Personally, I do think Gary Oldman deserved it. I think Darkest Hour is a hell of a film, and he really gives it his all as Churchill. And I was very happy to see him win. As a longtime fan of Gary Oldman, it was so great to see him get the gold.
Agreed. I think my vote would go. At some point we'll do this again, and maybe I'll kind of reflect. But I think I would go Daniel Kaluuya and Get Out. I think he pretty much carries a horror movie. This British dude playing this guy from seemingly somewhere in New York, and just kind of seamlessly allows the movie Get Out to move like just gold. That's why it's gone beyond just being a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like so annoying. Because that's the kind of shit that horror can't offer, and people want to just totally neglect it. And then when something like Get Out comes around, everybody goes crazy. But I think now, after that almost came out 4 years ago. It came out in March of 2017. Get Out. I think after all this time, I think Daniel Kaluuya is my personal favorite part of the movie. I think he is kind of giving an all-time performance, and maybe we're going to look back and be like, oh shit, we didn't give it to him, and we didn't give it to him for supporting actor for Widows. So shit. I think you can miss out on guys' young stuff, and then you end up in turn having to give guys like Gary Oldman stuff when they're older, because Gary Oldman has a lot of great shit from his younger days that I wish would have gotten more praise.
I think Kaluuya is probably going to be up this year for Judas and the Black Messiah.
Hopefully.
Got the Globe nomination. The movie looks amazing. Comes out next week. I'm confident he'll be nominated, and if it's as good as I'm expecting, he might win, which would be awesome.
I hope so, man. That would be fantastic.
For 2017 Best Actors, I would have submitted Hugh Jackman for Logan.
Oh yeah, that's a real strong performance. I'm partial to Ryan Gosling and Blade Runner. Yeah, there's a few films I can think of off the top of my head that got some good performances.
Yeah, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. So that's PTA. Hell of a run. He's got a movie in the works right now. Untitled as of now. It's supposed to come out. It says it's 2021, but I doubt that. It's supposed to follow a high school student in the 1970s San Fernando Valley who is also a successful child actor, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, which is amazing. So I'm
super cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this.
yeah, definitely can't wait. I'm on board for anything the guy does. He's at this point, I've told you, and I've probably said it before. He's my personal favorite filmmaker. I think all the movies have something to offer, something real cool to offer, and I think a few of them are amazing in some of my all-time favorite movies. I want to shift to the 70th Academy Awards because this show, Oscar Sunday, we like to highlight movies that sometimes we highlight movies. Pulp Fiction, our first episode ever. The Oscars most certainly helped propel that movie into a different sort of stratosphere.
Yeah.
And when Quentin Tarantino got the screenplay, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's this whole different kind of ball game. You got a whole different crowd paying attention to you. And this happened with Paul Thomas Anderson and Boogie Nights. When Boogie Nights gets those those 3 nominations, we're gonna talk about screenplay a bit and the supporting actress and supporting actor categories. I think those are important for Boogie Nights to reach a certain place, if you know what I mean. And I think that happened in the 90s with some filmmakers where all of a sudden, oh, they're not just this 20, 30-year-old something dude. They're also Oscar nominated, and that these scripts and performances are, for what it's worth, the Academy says are noteworthy, and that gets some people to pay attention. And it also allows us to do cool movies like this on this show.
Yeah,
because it's not every day you get a movie about a bunch of porn stars on Oscar Sunday. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, we've said it many times on this show. I know we said it at length in the Wings episode. The title of Academy Award nominee or Academy Award winner means something. As trivial as some may consider the Oscars to be, as much of a popularity contest as it indeed is, that title is incredibly significant in the industry. And it gives these people chances to make more stuff under their own control. I think if Paul Thomas Anderson had not been nominated for Boogie Nights, he might not have been able to go out of his way to do what he wanted for Magnolia.
Yes.
So it all comes around and it all matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Boogie Nights operates on around a $15 million budget and makes about $40 million and gets these awards going. And all of a sudden, Paul Thomas Anderson's got a career. And like you said, is able to be free with Magnolia. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful for what things like the Academy are able to do. I wish they were in turn more fair about how they give those trophies out.
Yeah.
Because they do mean something. And sometimes they act like it doesn't and disrespect their own process. You and I, more times than not, we find a lot of the Best Picture nominees to be pretty good movies, right?
Yeah.
But more times than not, we're like, think they were wrong. Or with the actor category, we're like, oh, that was way off. Or more times than not. But that's part of the fun, is just kind of looking at it. And I can't wait to start right here because we have 5 movies that are all so different, and in the screenplay category, and of course the winner, one of the most famous Oscar speeches of all time. So let's get to it.
Just looking at the top 5 for Best Picture, this was the year where Titanic swept, which I have mixed feelings about. We'll get to that eventually.
Yes.
But I think The Full Monty is a good movie, but it has no business being in Best Picture. Not when Boogie Nights is out there.
Not when Jackie motherfucking Brown is out there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no business.
Yeah. Well, let's start. Where do you want to start with this one? Because they're all three pretty big.
Let's do screenplay first. I like opening up with this group. And then we'll get to the acting stuff after. And that'll bring up Titanic at the end for supporting actors.
Right on. Best Original Screenplay. As Good as It Gets by Mark Andrus and James L. Brooks. Boogie Nights by Paul Thomas Anderson. Deconstructing Harry by Woody Allen. The Full Monty by Simon Beaufoy. And the winner, Good Will Hunting by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Interesting bunch here. The only one I have not seen is Deconstructing Harry.
Same.
I don't think, looking at it, I think Woody Allen has way more nominations than he should have.
Yeah, Woody has like 19 some bullshit altogether for directing and writing. Yeah, there's some good stuff there, but overall, just for me, not for me.
Personally, I think this should have gone to As Good as It Gets.
Totally cool with that. James Brooks, absolute mastermind.
Yeah.
As Good as It Gets features some really, really, really good performances. You know, Jack Nicholson wins Best Actor here. A guy that we've got to talk about through Chinatown, through Five Easy Pieces, and a guy that we'll always bring up when we can, because he's just, we talked about Daniel Day-Lewis just fucking, his batting average is pristine. Jack Nicholson was prolific as fuck, throughout his earlier days, during the 70s, 80s, 90s, this guy is just churning out, and most of them are fucking good performances. And As Good as It Gets, he does the Jack where he's just kind of leaning back and the movie star. He's doing the movie star thing where you're like, oh my God, the camera's just relying on this gem of a movie star.
Yeah, I think he was genuinely surprised that he won. I think he was not expecting that. He was laid back. He's got the shades. He's just, he's Jack. He's in the front row. He is Hollywood right there. But he's like, oh shit, I got it. I love that little hopping skip he does on the way up to the stage. And you look at his 3 wins, you got one in the 70s, one in the 80s, one in the 90s. The guy swept 3 decades. That's fucking awesome.
And 12 nominations altogether. Just bonkers.
But As Good as It Gets, I think its biggest strength is the witty screenplay. I love, some of the lines. My favorite, it's got one of my all-time favorite lines of all time. I may have said this on the show before, but fuck it. It's when he is going into his office and Julie Benz comes up to him and it says, I'm a big fan and I have a question. How do you write women so well? And he looks right at her and goes, I think of a man and I take away reason and accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So
good. Go sell crazy somewhere else. We're all stocked up here. Shit like that. It's great. And it's witty and it's charming and it's sweet. And I think it's a brilliant story. And Good Will Hunting is really good, but I think that Damon and Affleck were a little juvenile in their, they were still figuring it out. I feel like giving them the Oscar that early gave them both a little overinflation. I don't know. That's just me.
Oh, no arguments here. I think if you're going to go with a young up and coming writer, then give it to Paul Thomas Anderson. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing? The Boogie Nights screenplay? There is no other tier next to it. It's in its own like kind of realm. There's screenplays that are better than it or as good as it, but there's nothing like it. And nothing like it even from Paul Thomas Anderson. And Good Will Hunting, I've seen that movie before. I've seen that movie a few times, and while I love some of the delivery from Robin Williams, and I'm cool with some of the delivery from Damon and Affleck and the rest of the guys, Casey and those cats, Cole Hauser, but I don't see that screenplay as this kind of, oh my gosh, this one is really kind of changing the landscape, or Boogie Nights is totally trying to do something totally different. And I like that they awarded Pulp Fiction. I really like that they did that, because I think it saw a serious, commitment to something different, mainstream, but different, using movie stars, but different. And Boogie Nights is doing something similar, where you have all these incredible people in one movie, yet it works, yet it floats, yet it moves like butter. It's incredible. And for that, I think if you're going to give it to someone young, I think PTA is the guy they should have gone with. But I'm totally fine with As Good as It Gets. taking the win there. And I'm also with you on Full Monty. Cool movie, but I don't know about all the Oscar stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Four Weddings and a Funeral. It's a sweet, funny movie, but does it really deserve to be here?
Yes, and that's one of the most frustrating things about looking back at these is like, okay, there's 5 spots, and if me, who's seen on any given year in the 90s, whatever, if I've seen 40 movies from 1997, if I can think of a movie that can fit this place better, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good because there's a lot that I haven't seen. There's so much from 1997 I haven't seen, and I think there's a lot of people who would be like, well, here's these 5 movies that are way different than these 5 that are way better. And I'm open to that discussion. I'm open to that debate. But if I can, who I'm not this, I'm on a journey and I'm trying to watch a bunch of movies, but I haven't seen hundreds from every year. So if I can find a couple that should replace, a couple from your group, then yeah, you have work to do. You gotta watch more stuff.
I would absolutely think that a movie that deserves this spot right here would be The Game. I mean, you talk about well-constructed story, right?
There's three. The Game, Boogie Nights, Jackie Brown. Come on, like
those Jackie 3. Brown was. I'm talking screenplay still.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I was mentioning Best Picture, but yeah. I mean, Jackie Brown should be all over the place here. Great movie.
Yeah, well, Jackie Brown, I am honestly surprised that wasn't up for adapted screenplay. That I don't know. I don't know what happened there.
Neither do I. Yeah, that's it's one of my favorite QTs. So yeah.
All right, do you want to do supporting actress or supporting actor?
Let's start with actor first.
Okay, this is a very cool group of people. We have Robert Forster for Jackie Brown, Anthony Hopkins for Amistad, Greg Kinnear for As Good as It Gets, Burt Reynolds for Boogie Nights, and the winner, Robin Williams for Good Will Hunting. I have not seen Amistad, regrettably.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the only one I haven't seen either.
I know I'd love that movie because of, it's a biopic about a slave rebellion. Anthony Hopkins plays John Quincy Adams. Like, why would I not love that movie?
It's Anthony Hopkins doing what he does like every couple of years, and he's really good at it. So yeah.
I do not know with this group. Robin Williams is great in Good Will Hunting, and his speech is so heartfelt. It's great to see him win. But I don't know. There's any of these guys I feel like could have taken this. But I don't think Burt Reynolds should be the one from Boogie Nights who got nominated.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Go, personally, before you get to what you're going to say, because there are a tremendous amount of good performances in Boogie Nights. I cannot wait to hear who you're going to say. But you know where my heart lies. Robert Forster, I think, should have won this Oscar as Max Cherry. Mm-hmm. I think it is one of the most like subtly beautiful performances that I've ever seen, and it's a contained clinic within this kind of bonkers story where the stakes are at this kind of weird level. You're just enticed enough, and it feels so real. And Max Cherry is this legendary character. Man, yeah, I really love what Forster's doing. I think that's the one. I think that's the one he should have won.
Yeah, there's an argument for that for sure. I just think Burt Reynolds was difficult the whole time. His performance is very honed in.
So Burt Reynolds, that's an interesting thing. I think there's this huge kind of friction between Paul Thomas Anderson and Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to figure out, is that still here? Does that still last? I did some research and I found some reviews and some interviews, and some articles about it. And PTA says now this is what he says. He said this on a podcast that I listened to a audio bit of, and he says that that it was a 3-day like fight between them two.
Shit.
But then he says that the other 57 days were great. And he's like, you can probably guess when it started getting kind of chippy. And he spoke about when there was an actual moment when, you know, stuff is happening between Burt Reynolds and Mark Wahlberg that started to get a little, you know, little hot in there, a little sweaty. They're in the same house kind of over and over, and they're starting to wrap this movie up. It's like, let's get the fuck out of here. We're ready to be done. Because, you know, the beginning of the movie, they're filming all this crazy, you know, party scenes and disco and fucking let's do coke. And then, you know, this last 45 minutes is the hangover, is, you know, is the come down, come back to real life. And he spoke about it. You know, this is just like 3 years ago that he spoke about this. And Burt Reynolds says that, yes, there definitely was friction on the set there for a few days. But he also says that now the movie's pretty great.
Well, I'm glad he came around.
But no, there is no hiding when Burt Reynolds' name gets called at the Oscars. I watched it this morning. I watched the whole fucking show. When his name gets called, he's not really into it. He's kind of like, all right, you know, kind of like just a little simple wave. It's definitely not a role that in the moment he wanted any part of. He wasn't very proud of. You know, he definitely came close to firing his agent. That's what the rumors were. That because his agent was the one who was like, "Hey man, you should do this movie, this role. Like it's this Jackie Horn, you know, this it's perfect for you." And Jackie Horn, that's Big Lebowski. Jack Horner. Isn't that great? Those two movies, they're a year apart. That's wonderful. Yeah, I think some of that stuff is what makes a movie kind of grind the way it does, though.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happened on set, you know, a lot of crazy stuff I'm sure happens on all kinds of films. It probably helped the product in the long run, because you can feel it, man. In this movie, you can feel these actors kind of get sunken in and start kind of becoming these characters, and it gets real.
That's true. But I also read about Burt Reynolds only agreed to take this role after Paul Thomas Anderson assured him he'd be nominated for an Oscar. He sold his Golden Globe for about $12,000. He didn't give a shit. I did read that. Yeah, he did that right away. Yeah. So I feel like with all that, I just don't think he deserved this. I think his performance kind of doesn't match up to everyone else who really seemed to be giving it more. I feel Burt was only here because he had to be.
I definitely see what you're saying. It's definitely not one of the better performances. I totally agree with you. But there are moments in the film when good Lord, he fits. Holy shit. Smoking the cigar, you know, Dirk Diggler. Like, yeah, I like it, you know. And he just makes sense that he would have this huge house and be working in the porn industry as this director. And yeah, but overall, there's definitely people kind of outshining him, and you can see because he's got a little bit of a disdain for the character he's playing.
Yeah, he really does. Well, you know, Burt Reynolds is from a different time. Yes, you know, he came up in the 70s and the 60s. He kind of known for his, you know, mannish tough guy roles, and I can see how taking the role of Jack Horner would be he would consider it to be beneath him and consider this to be kind of, you know, gross, kind of, you know, slumming. But I don't think anyone else felt that. Like everyone else seems to be embracing this as a well-constructed story that just happens to be about the porn industry. I feel like
Yes.
Burt Reynolds thought he was doing a porno.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's all kinds of stories you can find about like what ifs with Boogie Nights, and apparently Leo was the first guy they wanted to play Dirk Diggler, play Eddie Adams, and Leo was like, "Oh, I'm already doing Titanic, so sorry." And they wanted Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin was like, "I don't want to be a part of a movie where I got to be nude and stuff like that." And yeah, it's definitely not everybody. It's not everybody's bag.
Well, one of the guys who they offered the role of Jack Horner to was Sidney Pollack.
Yes,
who I thought would have been way better.
I agree.
I've seen in a lot of the films I've seen of his, he has this kind of secret sleazy side. I could totally see him running a porn shoot. I don't know. Just I think about.
I agree. No, I think Burt is in there, in that supporting actor category. He's going against his type, and I think people are kind of shocked by it. But in the long run, yeah, I don't think he's totally winning and going for that award.
There are 4 actors in this movie who I think should have taken that spot.
Here we go.
John C. Reilly, Don Cheadle, William H. Macy, or Alfred Molina. Any of those guys, totally well-deserved.
PSH?
And PSH, my mistake.
That I'm totally fine with all of those guys. Oh man, it's quite a group. When you look down the line of Boogie Nights, you look down the line of people that pop up in it, people that just kind of are there with you the whole time, like John C. Reilly as Reed Rothschild. Oh my gosh, the scene where he, it's part of The Hangover. Shit's just getting kind of starting to turn, and they're at the studio, and the producer says to John C. Reilly's character Reed, he's like, "That sounds like a YP, not an MP." And he's like, "I don't know what all this industry mumbo jumbo YP MP is." Oh man, just these actors, they buy in. John C. Reilly also has a bit where he just, Todd Parker, he just screams the name, and all of a sudden this character now, it doesn't matter. We don't need to know anything. They don't need to say anything of any intelligence ever. But just because of the way John C. Reilly delivered, as Reed delivered, screaming that name, it just works. And I love stuff like that. And I think a lot of these actors totally get it. And Don Cheadle is another guy who so much understands what PTA is trying to do, and the way Don Cheadle's able to kind of maneuver around this movie with a little kind of like main screen time he does, but maneuver where his storyline is one of the ones you kind of care about the most. It's pretty amazing. I very much love Buck. He's a cool character.
One thing I do think we have to keep in mind, though, and I'm guilty of this constantly, is we got to remember this was 1997. Burt Reynolds was kind of the only person here who was anybody.
That's true.
Everyone else was up and comers. I mean, William H. Macy had the Fargo nomination.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore was really starting to take off. But the rest of these guys, like, this was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Like, who the hell was, this was Mark Wahlberg trying to be an actor. And, Don Cheadle had like a couple episodes of ER or something. Like, most of these people were nobody. And now they're huge stars. And it's kind of cool to think about that. Like, there was a time where none of these guys, like, they were willing to risk everything to do a movie about porn because they had nothing. Like, what career? Like, I don't know. It's cool to think about that.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's a set I really wish I could have been on, because I mean, you look in one corner and there's Ricky Jay and Philip Baker Hall, and Burt Reynolds, and then you look over, and you got young PSH and Mark Wahlberg and John C. Reilly and Nicole Ari Parker and Heather Graham, and like what's happening here? Who are all these kind of just who are all these beautiful people? What's going on? And yet to be a part of that, I'm sure was really cool. And then of course the guy at the helm is also in the middle of trying to become a star himself. And all of these things play a factor into Boogie Nights, and it's so cool. You can see it all. I think it takes a few times to kind of watch it. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! This isn't just a movie, just like about porn stars. This isn't just. This is damn good filmmaking.
Yeah,
and damn good storytelling, and makes you really interested in all the little characters. You really care about everyone.
Well, there's so few films that talk about this, that talk about
yes
porno as a legitimate career for some people, as a way of life for a lot of people. This is, who they are in many ways. I think that's the big lesson about this movie is everyone who tries to escape this can't. They always come back. And it's just, it's like a giant bear trap. Once you're in, like, you're fucking stuck. Like, this is it. But Paul Thomas Anderson uses the glamour and the the glitter to draw you into this, to this world that looks like it's no rules and whatever you want. You're a movie star by fucking people on camera. That's who you are. And we get to see this through Mark Wahlberg's eyes, through Dirk Diggler as, just some busboy and becoming a superstar. It's all through his eyes. And I love that we get to see how amazing it is, and then how fucking detrimental it is after he loses it. It's the perfect guy to follow for this story.
Yeah. I think that's one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best gifts as a filmmaker is he still knows, this guy is like a massive fan of Treasure of the Sierra Madre. He knows where the most interesting plot line probably is. I think he is very stylish, has a very unique, distinct style, but I think he does do something fundamentally like a lot of filmmakers do, and is that they pick the most interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And when you pick a perspective of Eddie Adams coming into the golden age of pornography in Hollywood through the late 70s into the early 80s. Fuck yeah. I mean, same thing that Goodfellas does. Fuck yeah, I want to follow this dude. Are you kidding me? Like, that's some like super gritty American shit. Yes, I want to see it. Same thing with Boogie Nights with this pornography era in California. You're like, yeah, I would love to see a movie just kind of spotlighting people's lives.
Well, I noticed, like, with this most recent watch, this was my third watch, that this film really moves like a Scorsese movie.
100%. Yeah.
It's like, I think you brought up Goodfellas, but I think Raging Bull is the one that mirrors it the most.
Yeah.
It's so weird. The trajectory of Jake LaMotta and Eddie Adams matches pretty damn close. It's so weird. And I think it's just, it's an early Paul Thomas Anderson's his second movie. So he's still, he's emulating the greats. He's building off of what he loves and putting his own spin on it. We talked about that when we did the little things on the sneak preview, how it's important for filmmakers to find themselves. And this is him. This is Paul Thomas Anderson finding himself. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's also so 90s. It's so like, I'm bored with this, what's happening now. So let's talk about a story from the past in America. And like, that's what a lot of filmmakers were doing. It reminds me a little bit of Dazed Confused, where it's like, let's just take a look back at a specific place, and that will be interesting because we're going to a specific place, like Austin, Texas, a specific place, like, being in San Fernando Valley in California, watching these people just try to make it, try to live their life in the way that they have been presented. And I love that. I love that Boogie Nights is as simple as it is, but also as complex and
dark.
Yeah. Yes. How dark and complex it is in these kind of, overbearing conversations that could be had constantly throughout the movie. I mean, right away, the first time you watch it, Lil Bill, William H. Macy's character becomes really fascinating. And right away, you see his life sucks, like right away. And so you should see his future coming. You should see his trajectory coming, later on.
Yeah.
And when it does, it just kind of bites you in the ass and, really kind of turns the movie as they go into the 80s. Lil Bill does what he does at the New Year's party, and then the movie gets dark.
Yeah, it's the turning point. It's when that reminds you that this is not a happy fantasy land. This is the last resort. Like they need to remind you of that you should not want to be a porn star. That's at least the vibe I got. It was like, you've seen the shiny side, now you get to see what it's really like.
What it definitely can do if you are in it too long and with the wrong people. And I'm sure there's people who have had successful, safe, pornography careers. I'm sure.
Well, now, sure, but like in the 70s.
But yes, exactly. This is when, not a lot of people knew what exactly was going to come in the 80s and into the 90s. And this movie is about a guy he was a porn star, this like giant guy who apparently was called Big John Wad. I think his name was John C. I can't remember what his name was. John C.
Holmes,
something.
Right?
Yeah, John C. Holmes. There we go.
It's about John Holmes.
And that's who it's like based off of, Boogie Nights. And he apparently had this giant cock and was this huge dude that everybody had a bunch of different nicknames for. And at one point he got AIDS, and this guy had this really strange, bizarre kind of like roller coaster life. And it's certainly interesting to look at and watch. But like you said, you always, a good filmmaker will remind you of the consequences, remind you of the decisions that have been made. And I love when PTA reminds you of those. He sometimes does them in a very harsh way.
There was a biopic about John Holmes and the Wonderland murders made in 2003 called Wonderland that I've always wanted to see. Val Kilmer plays John Holmes.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to see that to kind of pair with this. Yeah.
Crazy fucking story. I listened to a podcast about that. It's just so many people making horrible decisions and just culminating in so much death. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's scary.
So, best supporting actor, I think you're with Robert Forster and I'm with probably whoever else would have been nominated from Boogie Nights.
Yeah, I like that. I like that answer.
Best supporting actress.
Let's do this.
Joan Cusack for In and Out. Minnie Driver for Good Will Hunting. Julianne Moore for Boogie Nights. Gloria Stewart for Titanic. And the winner, Kim Basinger for LA Confidential.
Crazy. I
fucking love LA Confidential.
Hell yeah. So glad it won. Won the other screenplay, that and Good Will Hunting that's a cool one too.
Yeah, for sure. I have not seen In and Out.
Fucking same, dude. But I've seen the other four. We've been the exact same here.
Yep. So Kim Basinger in LA Confidential, I don't think she deserved this. I think she's kind of a little bland. If anything, she's channeling way too much Chinatown Faye Dunaway.
Yeah.
I think that this absolutely should have been Julianne Moore's first Oscar.
Yeah, no, hands down. There's not a whole lot I even need to say about what she's doing as Amber Waves. Just fantastic stuff.
She has the darkest, saddest story in this movie, and she plays it all believably. The good and the bad and the ugly. And she's just fantastic. And this was, one of her early films that really catapulted her career, I think. She followed this with The Big Lebowski, which I love. And I just think that she deserved it for the strength of her performance. Minnie Driver and Good Will Hunting, kind of forgettable. Gloria Stewart and Titanic. I don't know why So yeah, I would Julianne Moore I think has the strongest here, and I don't know why she didn't win.
Yeah, I agree. And Gloria Stewart, Titanic. This is the first time Titanic's been properly brought up.
Enough said.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not a bad movie. But when it's stacked up against some of the other films that have won Best Picture, some of the other ones, like pretty much any of the ones from the 70s. I think like there's a couple in the 80s, probably Amadeus being one of them. I just don't think it even comes close or compares. I think it's in this kind of weird no man's land as far as quality Best Picture winners. It's kind of like, it's fine. It's not terrible. It's not as bad as Driving Miss Daisy or anything like that. But it's kind of somewhere in that middle, it's fine.
I feel like Titanic would have been leagues better if they'd actually told anybody else's story. Who, like maybe, any of the passengers who were actually on that ship told their story, their perspective, instead of making up this fake love story. I think it would have been better. I think that this definitely should have taken all the technical stuff. I think technically this film is amazing, but it's not a very strong story. It does not need to be 3 hours. And I think at this point, it's kind of a joke.
It seems that way. It seems that way in a lot of circles. It seems like Titanic just gets kind of booted and kind of made fun of and whatnot. It's been a minute since I've sat down and watched the whole thing. We do intend on doing a Best Picture showdown one day.
Yeah.
On and it'll be based around Titanic, and we'll give out awards to Titanic. That'll happen one day. Not anytime soon, but it'll happen. And I love this show for that reason. It's one of the biggest reasons I love this show is that you're forced to watch the movie in a different way because you got to give awards out to it, and you're like, oh shit, what's my favorite part of this movie?
True.
What's my favorite performance? And for Boogie Nights, it just kind of whoa.
Yeah.
It becomes overwhelming because I already love the movie, but like Titanic is a movie that I have mixed feelings about. So I love going into movies like that. What can I find in this that I really like? And I think there's usually stuff there, you just got to be a little bit more open-minded, but where I stand now, yeah, Titanic it's not really for me.
Yeah. It's the highest grossing movie of all time for like years.
Yeah.
And I don't see it. I think that people got a little bit crazy about Titanic.
I agree.
It's been a while since I sat down and gave it a shot. So maybe, with this new mindset, maybe I will enjoy Titanic a lot more than I have in the past.
It also can backfire the other way. And you're like, oh shit, I don't like this at all. Sometimes that, that can happen. It's fun. It's fun going into movies like that and coming out the other way and just kind of like, whoa, coming out on the other end and you got a whole different perspective. It's cool.
Are there any awards you think Boogie Nights should have been up for?
Of course. Director, cinematography, Best Picture. Yeah, I think kind of across the board. I think people were too scared, at the time, and I think this happens a lot where you don't want to throw too much at one thing. Well, is it too early to give this 27-year-old, this guy who made this movie, all this acclaim? I just think when we look back, Boogie Nights is one of the most impressive movies from 1997 across the board.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should have been up for, if anything, production design.
Yeah, I mean, look at our club, the clubs, just the house. Forget it.
Yeah, it's a gem for sure, and I think it took a while for people to really appreciate that. I think for obvious reasons. I'm sure this had a bit of a stigma around it. People didn't want to say, oh, I love Boogie Nights because it's basically openly saying you love porn, which people do now all the time. But you didn't say that in the 90s. You didn't admit that to people in the 90s.
Yeah, I definitely love Boogie Nights, and I don't know if I spoke about it earlier or not, but before we jump into these awards here, which is going to be a lot of fun. I want to say the first time I watched this, I remember it like it was yesterday. First time I watched Boogie Nights was with my two older brothers, and we had kind of heard that, oh, this movie's really good. It's not what you think, sort of thing. Don't just look at the movie poster like, no, this is like a really good movie. So we're like, all right, let's rent it. I remember we rented on Amazon, and we're like, let's check this out, see what's up. And it was 2015. I remember it was during the summer. Us three were hanging out at home at my parents' house, and so I would have been 20 at this time, and it went by like 15 minutes. It went by like nothing, and I was like, oh man, and we immediately, by the ending, I was just kind of enthralled by it, and I just wanted more. I was like, is there anything else like this that I can watch? And the answer is no. You are going to have to just go ahead and rewatch Goodfellas or rewatch, stuff like that, like we were mentioning. It had a pull on me very, very early. And I definitely, at that time, was like, I like Boogie Nights, but I didn't want to I didn't want to come out and say that was one of my favorite movies right away to someone I was just meeting. But now I don't give a shit. I stand very firmly as to why I like it, and then that has to do exactly with what we're about to talk about, which is these awards. I think we're going to be able to kind of both explain our fandom through these awards, and that's a really cool place to go. So we got the Tarantino for best quote or best line. We got the Ennio Morricone for best music moment. We have the Philip Seymour Hoffman for best performance, and we have the Roger Deakins for best scene or best moment of the movie. Connor, take it away with your Tarantino.
Okay, I have 3.
I love it.
I
mean, yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
This is a film that has some of the most outrageous, unforgettable dialogue I've ever seen. And all 3 of these come from the same scene.
Perfect. Okay, so it's a good bit of dialogue. I love it. Here we go.
It's all from Jack's pool party. The first time Eddie goes to meet Jack and his friends.
I'm in.
My first one comes from when he meets Reed Rothschild, and Rothschild just randomly says, "You ever see that movie Star Wars? People tell me I look like Han Solo." I love it specifically
Genius.
because he mispronounces it. He says Han.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that is it, and that happens over and over again in this movie. You'll hear words that get misplaced. William H. Macy does it in the most fine fashion of all time, talking to Ricky Jay. Yeah.
Yep, and that is actually my second.
Go ahead.
So, little Bill comes out to around the parking lot to see his wife fucking a guy, and everyone just kind of standing around watching. And he's like, "What the fuck?" And she's like, "Just fuck off." And
yeah, little Bill, fuck off. Yeah.
Ricky Jay comes up to talk to him about the production and asks him about the photography, and is like, "Hey, come on, man! Like, what's up?" And he goes, I'm pretty sure this was a fuck up that stayed in the movie.
Yes.
Which is just great. Little Bill says, "My fucking wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway, Kurt. I'm sorry, my thoughts are not on the photography of the film we're shooting tomorrow." It's fucking perfect.
And Ricky Jay is just kind of like, "All right, man." And then William H. Macy walks away, and Ricky Jay starts walking over to watch his wife getting nailed. What's happening? Oh man! And you're not the setting of this. You're not at this. It's a nice house. It's a really nice house. It's a cool house, but it's just the right amount of nice. It's not insane. It's not like this huge, crazy mansion. It's believable, man. You believe these stakes.
Not just believable, it seems attainable. And that's a big part of it. And then my third comes from the first meet between Eddie and the Colonel. And the way the Colonel introduces himself or says hello to Eddie is, I look forward to seeing you in action. Jack says you got a great big cock. It's just so casual, this universe, this world, where it's just, that's how you introduce yourself to porn producers. You just zip it down. That's your handshake.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, it's so funny. It's so funny how they treat the cock like it's its own person. Like when he first does his bit with Amber Waves, when Dirk Diggler and Amber Waves go at it for the first time, and she's like, I mean, this is in detail. She's like, I want you to come inside me. And he's like, okay. And then you got Lil Bill and Jack talking, and he's like, what we missed the cum shot. He came inside of her. What are we gonna do? Should we go to some stock footage or something? And Jack's like, are you fucking kidding? It won't match. Like, there's dialogue and actual words written down and to be said just around his penis, and it's like an actual character in this movie. But it's not like funny. It is on the surface, but it's not. It very much is like an asset to these people.
Yeah.
Dirk Diggler and his features become, it's my 17-year-old piece of gold, like that's how they see him and what he has. And it's pretty mind-boggling how funny some of the dialogue is just about the happenings with Dirk Diggler. It's crazy.
Well, that's pretty much, that's how the porn industry is, really. I mean, it's based mostly around women. Like women, it's the whole body has to look great. With men, all you need is the dick. Like the rest of you can look like dog shit. We look at Ron Jeremy, one of the ugliest motherfuckers in the world. Huge dick. That's all you need to know about the porn industry right there.
Huge dick. Yeah, it's funny, man. It's funny how this movie just how well it operates and how funny it is while being so committed to its actual content and what's actually happening. So yeah, I love it. That whole scene, the first time we go to Jack's house and everybody's just kind of there. Yeah, you can't look away.
No, you can't. What is your Tarantino?
My Tarantino comes in the thick of the film here. It'd be when things are going real well for everyone, for Dirk, for Jack, for Amber, for Roller Girl, everybody, and Ricky Jay. That's another time when he's involved. And Ricky Jay, I cannot right now remember his character's name, but he, he's does a lot of the camera work, a lot of the editing with the pornography films they're making. And he, at one point is in the room with Jack and they're talking and, they're like, we got some stuff here. Like, and this isn't just, you're running the mill porn. Like I think we got a real thing going on here. And Jack says to him, Burt Reynolds, and just, this is one of those moments where I think he was actually locked in as Jack Horner. He says, this is the film I want them to remember me by. And you have Paul Thomas Anderson writing that down. And I got to think, when I hear that from an actor and it's, delivered by this Burt Reynolds legend, but it's written down by this young dude who's making his second feature film, and that comes out of that guy's mouth, that like legend's mouth, the most renowned dude in your whole cast. And he says that, like, he's kind of speaking for Paul Thomas Anderson as the filmmaker in, he's the director in the movie. It's a very interesting part of the movie where, things are going well. This is really good. In the moment, this is really good. And you might change your mind later on. You might feel differently. And obviously, he begins to, detest Eddie Adams, detest Dirk Diggler, as Dirk Diggler starts to become a total, cokehead and a complete dick. And Jack, is like, no, man, fuck this guy. So in this moment, when he says, this is the film I want them to remember me by, I think in whatever field it's in filmmaking, I think a lot of people have said that as creators. They think like, this is the one. This is my best work. This right here is my favorite. And I love that. I love that that's put into the screenplay and it's said by fucking Burt Reynolds.
It is wild to hear, I immediately jumped to Inglourious Bastards, the closing shot of Brad Pitt saying, you know what, Udovich, this may just be my masterpiece. It's, I love that kind of self-awareness. And I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, that's really cool. That's really insightful.
I love, like you said, there really are a lot of just like kind of zingers, like a lot of bangers, just really good, funny quotes in this movie. And a lot of it comes from that moment at Jack's house. I mean, the first time you're seeing everybody, it's just one after the other. It's just so funny. And I think as you get into the movie, there's also some really good stuff. And it takes a couple of rewatches, and I'm really glad you got to see this, you said, for the third time. I'm really glad you got to, experience it in this way.
Yeah. My second time was for the PSH episode. And
there you go.
First was a long time ago by myself with, cause I had still do huge crush on Heather Graham.
Yeah, of course.
Found out she was in a movie about porn and was like, I'm going to watch that right now. And I was not disappointed.
You were like, oh, this is a crazy movie.
I did not watch it for the right reasons, but I liked it a lot.
Oh, that's great. Open up to a whole different world. Yeah, you didn't know what you were signing up for. This next award actually might be the most difficult.
This was very tough.
The Ennio Morricone is dedicated. We do this award always dedicated to our favorite music moment, needle drop, or piece of score, soundtrack, whatever it is. And this movie specifically, like, to me, has the best soundtrack that we've covered. We've done some movies that have good scores, have good soundtracks. Like Back to the Future is one that pops out right away. That's like, oh yeah, there's some fucking zingers on there too. But Boogie Nights without the soundtrack is just not what it is. It's a character in itself, and it propels each scene like over and over and over and over. When you see the Colonel for the first time, you got Spill the Wine, like all those little things, those little needle drops, bang, 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 bang. That's the Scorsese coming out, just like fucking throwing daggers like left and right, like look at me go. And it's not just that, it's why you can compare that to Scorsese. It's not just a guy filming people walking into a room with music playing. It's a guy filming, from way behind, tracking shot, comes up closer, and then swings it around them to where now we're facing them and going into a club. And you're like, oh my God, I'm in. I'm in. I'm in good hands. And I love that.
And just like Goodfellas and a lot of Scorsese's work, the music reflects the time. We go from, 70s to the 80s, and the music, the soundtrack reflects the tone of the times. And it is just fucking fantastic bunch of songs. It really is perfection, the soundtrack.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And how it gets kind of like, I'll save it. Well, no, it kind of gets like there's a couple of like borderline annoying 80s songs because the movie's going into that kind of like, oh, you don't want to be here. You don't want to be in this zone listening to this song with these people. Like I love that. That touch is so cool.
Why don't you go first on this one?
I had to. Oh man, I wrote this down right before we started recording. I truly don't know. I'll change my mind tomorrow probably. But where my heart just kind of came back to was Best of My Love, The Emotions. That would be the intro song to this film. When you see the Boogie Nights and the camera goes, Boogie Nights goes kind of to the side, and then we're going onto the street, into the club, and we're just kind of in this world right away. You just kind of get dumped in. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no questions. Nothing happens. You just get dumped in. and that song is a lie. It's a fucking lie, is what it is, because you're being set up. You're being set up for just a roller coaster of events. And that song is like, oh, this is gonna be a fun like disco movie. All right, like yeah, here we go. No, it's like it's not that. You know, it's much better than that,
Yeah.
but it's not that. And I think that decision, you know, Best of My Love by The Emotions is just a really good decision. You know, filmmaking is a lot of decisions happening at once, and I think most of his music decisions, PTA, because he, you know, likes to make a lot of those moves when it comes to the music and movies. I I think he made a lot of not just good but right decisions, and
Yeah.
Best of My Love is one of those.
Straight up. With this soundtrack, especially with that song, this film becomes a siren, lulling you into the rocks. You with this beautiful, you know, this awesome upbeat soundtrack, not, you know, with you completely unaware that you are sinking.
Yes.
It's
Yes, exactly. Before you know it, you're an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah.
I was tired when I put this on. I wasn't tired halfway through the movie.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's happened to me so many times. Ah, God.
It's fantastic.
What's your Ennio?
I knew it before I put the movie on. It's a scene that stayed with me since the first time I watched it because of how fucking ridiculous it is, and just how it represents like how far the mighty have fallen. And it's Dirk Diggler in a booth singing "You Got the Touch" so out of key, and it's played like it's like he's doing something so badass and he can't fucking sing. He's trying so hard to still be famous, and it's so funny because that song is so cheesy, and it's perfect. It's a perfect scene with just a terrible song being sung even worse. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Because Reed's in the booth going like, "You got this, man." Yeah, it's oh god.
Oh yeah, that whole part of the movie, that music part. Have you listened to those tapes, man? There's gold on here.
We are guaranteed a record deal. Okay.
Oh, you got to give us the tapes so that we can take them to the record company. They're waiting on us.
Oh my god, what Coke does to the mind, man.
Oh man, that whole excellent choice. Yeah, you got the touch. Dun, dun. Oh man,
It's the best part is that he can't fucking hold a tune to save his life. And this is like take 7.
Mark Wahlberg is damn good in this movie, and that's one of his best stretches in the movie is when he's just spiraling. Like,
oh my god,
what's happening? And when he's screaming at the producer, like, have you listened to these tapes? Like, oh my god.
You mentioned Leo being like the original choice. I don't think it would have worked as well. I think Mark Wahlberg has this arrogance about him that just works for Dirk Diggler. He needs to be a dick you're rooting for.
I totally agree. I think Leo would have done some scenes very, very well.
Yeah.
And would have acted like he would have gone for it. But I think Mark Wahlberg just fits exactly what this movie's going for. And I think it works that he's not like classically trained as an actor, you know, Mark Wahlberg. Because this character is not classically trained. It just works. Just fits.
Well, Mark Wahlberg throughout his career is always doing his best work when he's playing like just spiraling self-destructive characters. And Boogie Nights is maybe the pinnacle of that. I know he's kind of ashamed of this movie now, which is weird, but he should be proud. He really should be.
Yeah, man.
I mean, hell of a way to start off a career, especially after you were a shitty rapper.
Yeah, really shitty. Yeah,
his whole career makes no fucking sense to me, but I'll take it.
Yeah, it is definitely one of those that's like, oh, this is really interesting to look at now after 30 years of just bizarre things happening over and over, and now he's a full-blown movie star.
Yeah, who'd have thought? You told me in like 1994 that was going to happen. I would have told you go fuck yourself.
Yeah, get the hell out of here. Yeah, that's hilarious.
All right, now we come to for me, which was the most difficult one, PSH.
The PSH. Of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman is here. He is someone who could win this award as Scotty J. Of course, rest in peace to him. We love that guy, and he's just doing so many cool things in this movie. He's not my choice. But I'll start. I actually think we might have chosen the same person, even though there's all these people you could choose from. Something tells me that there's a right answer here. And I think it's Julianne Moore as Amber Waves. That's my choice for the PSH. What do you have?
I don't have Julianne Moore.
I'm very curious.
All right. So for the longest time, up until a couple hours ago, I had Thomas Jane.
Oh man, yeah, he's insane. Yeah, he's insane in this movie.
And then I watched Hard Eight, and I realized a certain actor's incredible range that people do not talk about enough. And I picked John C. Reilly as Reed.
As Reed, yes. Oh, good call. I love it. Oh, good call.
John C. Reilly is one of the most talented character actors working today, and we do not talk about that enough. The guy has an incredible range that just, God, he should be so, the directors he's worked with, man, it's amazing. And PTA brings something out in him that no other filmmaker does. And I love I love Step Brothers to death, but I also love that he can do stuff like this and excel and stand out. And that's amazing. So that was my rationale.
A little bit of shake, a little bit of bake. John C's the man. I don't have a problem with that. I'm okay with that. The reason I think Julianne Moore has the biggest task here.
Oh yeah.
And if that's a different actress who doesn't pull it off, this movie could be just like ruined. And specifically with that character, because you got these high octane scenes where she is, oh, let's go on a walk, I don't ever want to go outside, and I'm your mom, yeah, just kind of like, whoa, what's happening here? And then there's the scene where she has to, appear in the movie for the first time in this full-on get-up, in a full, like, she's wearing like a jacket and a dress, and here she is in front of her ex-husband talking about custody of her son, Yeah. And she like shatters me in that moment. And that's the moment in this movie that kind of scares me the most, where I'm like, damn it, that scene's coming. Here we go. And that's when you're about to be kind of challenged as a viewer. And yeah. she does that to me time and time again. She's another person. Her, PSH and John C. These people in PTA, it's a dream. It's a dream, a match made in heaven sort of thing. And I love that you shout out John C. Reilly, because he'll never get his proper due. Sucks. It very much sucks, because what he does in Magnolia is like on a whole nother level. And that's something I will definitely talk about whenever we get to do that episode one day on Magnolia, because he's wonderful in that. I love that call, man. I love this award, the PSH. We usually are spot on, or it's different like this. I really thought you were going to go for Julianne. We spoke of her so highly earlier. She's wonderful, but John C. is such a good pick. Guys like him, I mentioned earlier, the way he just screams Todd Parker, like those little things are so necessary for the character introduction to work. And John C. does it over and over and over again. I love the way he talks with him and Don Cheadle when they're talking about magic. And he's like, Don Cheadle's like, do you ever get scared, like dealing with those evil forces? And he's like, what? No, man, it's just an illusion. Yeah, it's confusing. Incredible. He just kind of bounces around dealing with everybody. And there's a movie there that I think is really interesting. A movie about his character, He's the guy who chases Dirk Diggler as he runs away after freaking out. Like, that character is really interesting to me. I love that pick, man.
Well, Reed Rothschild is very much a parasite. He doesn't have an identity of his own. I mean, everything he talks about, he one-ups people and then latches on to people. That's what he does. He's a very interesting character. And I do think, John C. Reilly is one of the unsung heroes of this film for making that character real, making him believable.
Yes.
Yeah, fucking great. This cast is so diverse and so fascinating that really anybody could have taken this, except Burt Reynolds, in my opinion. But most of them could have.
Hell, yeah, even Luis Guzman, who's like the entire time just like wanting to be in the movies. He's like, come on, the Latin lover. Like, I could, that's what I could be. He's doing that the entire movie, all, whatever, 6-7 years that we cover. So funny.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Great stuff. Yeah, this is why we do these awards. You just get to kind of dive in and talk about what you love most about it. And here we are at the Roger Deakins Award. What is your favorite, best, however you see it? What's your Deakins, Connor, for Boogie Nights? A very difficult movie to choose this for.
I have a feeling we might have the same one on this.
So okay, maybe this is the one we have the same. Yeah.
It's the scene with Rahad and the firecrackers going to Rahad's house to rob him.
100%. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about this one. That's for sure. It's the best scene in the whole movie, no doubt. Alfred Molina comes in. If he was in it just to like a little bit more, which is not the point, he would win the PSH. That guy, I don't know who got in his ear about playing. I love how Thomas Jane says his name's Rayhead Jackson.
Rayhead, yeah, that's what it is.
He says it. He's all fucked up. He's sweating. They're at a table planning this fucking insane, ridiculous, robbery. What are y'all thinking? Bringing baking soda over here as it's, thinking it's going to be drugs, and they go into this house, and that's when it becomes a full-on Martin Scorsese movie.
It's amazing. It could be a short film. Like, that could be the whole movie, is them trapped in Rayhead Jackson's house. Thomas Jane is fucking amazing in this scene. Like, he's another guy who never gets his due. He's amazing.
We came here to do something. We're gonna do something. Now he went to that room. He went to the bedroom.
Crazy.
And John C. Reilly, he's like doing the right amount of putting his palms on his knees and just kind of sweating it out. And Mark Wahlberg, when you get that shot looking straight into his face, and he's just like sees everything we just saw. Yeah. And you're like, what's happening?
The little bits.
Oh man.
Of like Alfred Molina being like, shh, I love this part. As the music, like as Night Ranger tunes up, and he's just like,
yeah.
He does the air guitar.
What's up? Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Jesse's Girl comes on. He's like, hold on, I love this song. He's like, I make these mixtapes, I think this is number 11. and then Cosmo, the guy who's just throwing fucking firecrackers at the ground, and he's like, oh, that's Cosmo. Sorry, he's Chinese. Like, what?
What a brilliant way to build tension. Just have a dude in the background chucking firecrackers. So you get that boom every few seconds. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, and all these guys are tweaking because they haven't had a fix in a while. They haven't done any drugs in a minute, so they're all tweaking. And they kind of put you in that place as an audience member, no matter what state you're in, just because of the noises and the tension. And this guy's like, "You guys want to play baseball? you want to like smoke some meth, snort some coke? What do you want to do, man? He's like, oh, you want to see something fascinating? And he just pulls out this massive revolver, like,
loads it, puts it up to his own head. Like, fuck.
Alfred Molina, just like perfect. It's like Jaws. It's like, oh my God, what a finale. We got to see this insane, scary dude for just the right amount of time. And then that's it.
Alfred Molina is one of my all-time favorites. I adore him to death. He's one of my favorite character actors. Every time I see him in a cast list, I'm like, I'm watching that movie immediately because he always kills it. and has never been fully appreciated. And I'm this is such a great bit. And like when he shoots when he kills Todd and just like is screaming, "Come on, you puppies!" as he's chasing Dirk and Reed out of the house. Like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? Like, this is an average Tuesday for this dude.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable, and how it kind of just continually changes pace, this movie, and how it pivots and just again moves kind of like nothing else. I think obviously we've brought up Martin Scorsese a lot, but I still think there's just this tremendous amount of originality,
Yeah,
and style just oozing out of it. And for this to be the final scene of it before Dirk goes back to, runs back to Jack's arms, this was such a reward as just a viewer of this movie. It was, oh my gosh, you get this insane kind of shootout that again is just the right amount of time. I thought the first time I saw that, I was blown away. And now when I watch it, at this point, I'm waiting for that scene to come. I'm like, here we go. Like, let's get to Mr. Jackson's house. Like, I'm ready to just see this insanity unfold. I love it so much. Boogie Nights, there are a lot of moments that someone could pick out, but I just think that's the most impressive scene in the whole film.
yeah, hell yeah, and that is really saying something. There's a lot of scenes in this film that could have almost gotten there, but there's this one scene is so just well constructed, and the tension is perfect. The characters all pop, and it's just flawless.
Yep. Yes. It's pretty much perfect, man. And good Lord, I had a lot of fun here just talking about a movie that's not only something I respect and see as a pretty important movie in modern American filmmaking. I think it is really, really fun to watch. and it's like an absolute blast. No, I'll probably never stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I have had it at an 8 for a very long time, but this viewing just something else clicked, and I pushed it to a 9.
Very nice. Yeah, it's definitely a 10. There's a few of those in Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography for me. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for this guy. And this was the first movie we got to do of his, and it won't be the last. It'll be a minute before we come back to him, but it will not be the last time we talk about PTA and talk about this era, this kind of mid to late 90s, because it's when you and I were born, and it's we were both born in 95, so it's an important time for you and I because we like looking back at what was happening, and it turns out a lot of cool shit.
Absolutely. What do we got going on next week?
Next week, we're going to be doing a 50s film. It's been a minute, since we've gone way back. We did Moonlight last week, talking about a 90s film here with Boogie Nights. So we're going to go back to the 50s, 1952, High Noon, a film I've never gotten to see. The main thing I'm, chose it for is Gary Cooper. This is a guy I really want to study. He's a dude who won an Oscar here for this film. So really excited to kind of base the episode around that film and Gary Cooper himself. I can't wait. I think it's a movie that you have seen, correct?
I have. This is a film that really, I think, represents the Hollywood blacklist. John Wayne hated this movie to death. It destroyed his friendship with Gary Cooper. And it's very much the antithesis of almost every other Western that came out in the 50s. And I think it's our first Western, right? On Oscar Sunday?
Yeah. Going all the way back to the 25th Academy Awards for it. So, yeah, I mean, this is where we got to go. We got to go to the heart of it.
Very nice. I haven't watched this movie since my sophomore year of college, so it's been a minute. So I'm excited to revisit it with this mindset.
Oh, yeah. Give some awards out to it. Talk a little bit of, 25th Academy Awards and talk a little Gary Cooper. We're going to have some fun.
Oh, hell yeah. Don't miss Fatal Attraction on the Filmgazm podcast this week. Julie and I are going to have a good time digging into that one. Also, a big old Oscar contender, that film. And then we'll have more sneak preview tomorrow, talking Malcolm and Marie Netflix release. Very excited.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Killer. Thanks for listening, everybody. Keep watching movies.